in the day, the All-Star Game was different. Very different. Players went out to win, to fight for every ball. Defense was paramount and one of the most crucial aspects of the game that everyone wanted to see, and that was playing at home for Michael Jordan. Rivalries between players also developed in the All-Star Game, and in 1998, this game served to put the stars of the two most relevant teams of the moment against each other, because Jordan, representing the Eastern Conference, also had to face the two superstars that the Lakers had acquired. Two superstars who threatened Chicago with conquering the NBA forever. Of course, we're talking about Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. The new Los Angeles duo was captivating all the fans. Kobe, in fact, was a fan favorite who had managed to be selected for the All-Star Game playing off the bench. But Shaq, he was already the king. He was already a standout player who knew what it felt like to eliminate Jordan from the playoffs, the only star to have achieved this since 1990. That's why the 1998 All-Star Game went down in history forever. It went down in history as the day Michael Jordan destroyed the two players who aspired to his throne. There was no doubt about it. At that point in his career, Michael was already the GOAT. Not only had he been crowned champion 5 times in the last 7 seasons, including the year and a half he was away from the courts, but he had also proven himself to be the best player of his generation. When the 1997-1998 season began, Jordan had already been named MVP 4 times, DPOY once, and 10 times All-NBA First Team. No one had a comparable legacy, so Michael had only one enemy that could stop him: the passage of time. At 34, Michael was beginning to enter the twilight of his career. His days in the NBA were coming to an end, and the same was true for the core of his Chicago Bulls. A team that had dominated for a decade was now on its last legs. What does that mean? That, as in every generation that has passed through the league, the new faces were getting better and better. The young players who began to arrive in the league in the 1990s seemed more technically polished. They were better shooters, they were more athletic, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to stand up to them. But one of those young and athletic teams was different from the rest. They were more special. The summer of 1996 changed everything for the Lakers. Not only because they traded for the 13th pick in the draft to select a young man from Philadelphia named Kobe Bryant, but also because that offseason, the Lakers managed to lure Shaquille O'Neal in free agency, the most important emerging superstar in the NBA. The only player, as I said, who was able to beat Michael Jordan in a playoff series since 1990. Although the All-Star Game didn't count towards the team's record and didn't give the winner any advantage, as in the case of MLB, Jordan had a lot to prove. He had to show Kobe and Shaq that their time had not yet come. He had to prove that despite being 34 years old, he was still the best. And that's why Michael treated that All-Star Game like a playoff game. That's why, on February 8th, 1998, everyone was glued to their TVs. In the transition era in which the NBA was immersed, fans could see established legends of the past, such as Jordan, Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, and David Robinson face off against the future of the league. A role that fell to players such as Kobe, Shaq, Jason Kidd, Tim Duncan, and Grant Hill. Not only that, but one of Michael's greatest rivals during his career, Larry Bird, would be his coach that night in New York. Although the Bulls superstar was sick before the game, and for hours it was not even known if he would play, one thing was certain. The 1998 All-Star Game had 2 of the most stacked teams that had ever existed. Although it was all greetings and good vibes before the game, everything changed when the referee tossed the ball into the air. And right from the start, Michael showed how the rest of the game was going to be. On his first play, Jordan scored a completely surreal shot, fading away from young Kevin Garnett. Now, Kobe Bryant, who had been watching Michael's tape practically since he was born, wanted to show him his ambition. The problem? It's easier to make those shots in an open gym than in front of the greatest player of all time. Of course, despite his youth, you couldn't give the Mamba a wide open shot because you could be sure he was going to knock it down. And every time Michael had the ball, Kobe followed him like a shadow. Sometimes it seemed like he didn't just want to take the ball away from him. Sometimes it seemed like he wanted to take his moves away from him. Bryant was using that game not only to show Michael that he was serious, but also to learn from him. But at the same time, on the other side of the court, Jordan wasn't going to make things easy for him. Look at how he defends Kobe to prevent him from scoring. Michael's desire to win was evident in every play, like in this one, where Grant Hill misses the layup, but Jordan is alert to make a spectacular putback dunk. Moments later, Michael decides to give Kobe a couple of lessons from the low post. Look how he takes him into his territory, only to hit him with the fadeaway jumper from the low block. An unstoppable shot that Jordan was always able to score efficiently. Years later, Bryant would add it to his arsenal and make it his own. But the most incredible thing is that on the next trip, MJ showed Kobe that he was capable of doing the same thing from the other side. This time, Michael is isolated from the left low block, and he makes the same move again, spinning baseline, to drill the shot in the face of the Lakers guard. Not only that, but he's also able to draw the and one. That night, Michael was also sharing the ball, because after all, it was one of the aspects of the game where he had improved the most in his career. Kobe, not so much. Yet. Now, while Kobe and MJ were enjoying their well-deserved rest, the NBA decided to interview Michael. The first thing they asked him, about Bryant's attitude. And Jordan talked about how the Lakers guard went at him with everything he had. Although he also said that that was the right approach. When he returned to the court in the second quarter, he continued to do his thing, scoring from mid-range, knocking down shots, and helping the East increase their lead. He also continued to find good looks for his teammates, making the right decisions that led to more points. But as soon as Kobe entered the court, Michael was eager to score again. Back in the low block, this time from the right, Jordan drills another fadeaway jumper in the face of the player who idolized him. At halftime, the Eastern Conference led by a comfortable 9-point margin. Jordan had a game-high 13 points and had even more points in store for the second half. But after giving the interview, Michael starred in one of the moments that fans would remember for years to come, because a camera inside the East players' locker room captured this.
I don't think the boys want to take everybody one-on-one. He don't let the game come to him. No, he just make this happen. I'm going to make this a one-on-one game.
Yes, you could say that Mike was impressed with the attitude of the young Lakers guard, and that's why he was even more eager to show him that he still had a lot to learn. Kobe wasted no time in showing that he would continue with the same ambition in the second half, but Jordan defended him fiercely to prevent him from scoring. But when Bryant had Shaq's help, everything changed. You could start to see the chemistry the two were developing in LA. On the other side, Michael continued to torment Kobe from the low post. Look at the move he uses to get away from number 8's defense. And even though Shaq came to help and block the shot, it was too late. Shortly after, Michael took Kobe back to the low post and knocked down the shot over him again. And right after the start of the fourth quarter, Jordan received a pass from Rick Smits at the three-point line to drill the jumper and catch and shoot. He continued to distribute the ball, something that is undoubtedly easier with shooters like Reggie Miller at his side. But he also kept looking for the basket whenever he could, like on this play, where after a nice spin move, he's able to get the layup over Tim Duncan. Jordan was the epicenter of an offense that included half of the best players in the world. He continued to show out, throwing dimes that ran through the entire defense. And by the time people realized it, the game was a complete blowout. Michael not only led the best possible game in scoring against the best players in the world, he also led his team to victory with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals with great efficiency. Even though Kobe got 18, Michael's influence was much more important in deciding the game. Bryant probably felt like the second best player in the world that night. He had knocked down some buckets against MJ, his idol, the best player to ever step on a basketball court. But at the same time, Jordan proved much more with much less effort. Part of this is the difference in experience between the two players. But the only reality is that Kobe had a lot to learn before he could surpass Michael. Jordan won his 5th MVP and 6th ring that same season, but the Lakers weren't his rivals in the finals. Karl Malone and John Stockton's Utah Jazz beat them in the conference finals, and they were Michael's victims right after that. After his second three-peat, Michael became the greatest athlete of all time. And knowing he had nothing left to prove, he decided to retire from the NBA. Forever? No. But as a Bulls player, yes. During his years away from the court, the Lakers took advantage of the opportunity to build an unprecedented dynasty. Both Kobe and Shaq delivered on their promises and became the most feared duo in the entire league. Shaq's power was offset by Kobe's electric play, which was winning him more and more fans despite his youth. And together, Shaq and Kobe managed to win the three-peat with the Lakers, the last one any team has ever won in the NBA. They were so good that the only ones who could beat them were themselves. But that's a story for another day. What is clear is that on that night, even though Jordan won the game, Kobe won the experience, because what he learned from Michael Jordan is something that money can't buy. In front of the next great dynasty, Michael Jordan didn't back down. He looked Kobe in the eye and showed him what greatness looked like under pressure. He didn't hand Kobe the crown. he really made him earn the right to chase it. And for the fans watching, it was more than basketball. It was a legacy. It was closure. It was one generation reminding the next. Before you build your empire, learn from the king who ruled it first. Which leads me to wonder, is Kobe Bryant the player most similar to Jordan in the history of basketball? Not just because of how he studies his moves, but also because of his mentality, because of his killer instinct, because of his ambition to be the best. What do you think? Drop your pick in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. If you live for legendary breakdowns, epic rivalries, and the moments that made basketball history, subscribe to First 5 Hoops and join a community of real basketball fans. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.